Any names, places, or likenesses mentioned are used for storytelling purposes and may be fictional or speculative. The opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not reflect those of Cosmic Crumbs or its hosts. No guarantees are made regarding the accuracy of any stories discussed, and we are not responsible for how this content is interpreted or used. This show contains vulgar language and sometimes vulgar material. Viewer discretion is advised.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of Cosmic Crumbs. I'm here, as always, every week, bringing you the greatest recipes and maybe the craziest stories that you've heard for the week anyway. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to thank everybody that's followed the channel lately. We've had some people follow a little bit of everywhere. Which is awesome to get some people rolling in, even if it's after the fact. So if you're listening to this in the future, in the past, depending on how you're looking at it, or into the past, thank you. Appreciate that. And I've got the link tree pulled up. Since last week, we have added the Choose Our Next Adventure button. And what this is each week in between shows, so from Thursday to Thursday, you can go in and pick exactly what you want to see the next week. And I think that's really cool. Super excited to get that in. But I've got a lot of stuff on here. We've got, the Am I the A-hole stories from last week. We've got What's Your Best True Spooky Story. There's X-Files. There's Paranormal. There's Urban Legends. There's cryptid sightings. There's Unexplained Mysteries. So each week you can come in here. Again, starts when I stop the show on Thursday. You go in and vote from Thursday to Thursday. And then whatever picks up the most votes between this Thursday and next Thursday is what I'm going to talk about when it gets time to get into storytelling. And this went out in the email last week. So if you don't already, or if you're not already on the spam mail list, all the stories that we talk about, all the recipes that we listen to, it's all in one email after the show. So completely free. You just go to the link tree, hit the mailing list. I'll send you all the recipes of everything after the show. And then while you're in there, choose our next adventure. Or if you have a story or a recipe you want me to share on the show, submit your stories and recipes too. But choose our next adventure. And this week, the winning vote was Glitch in the Matrix stories. So that's what we're going to get into after the recipes. If it's your first time listening, low commitment show. We're just going to look at some recipes, talk about food, and then just get into some weird stories like we always do. And every now and again, I have a guest on, but mostly it's just me yapping. So thanks for being here. We'll start the evening though. I brought a high protein video for those of you who are watching your weight. This seems like a pretty easy recipe. We'll talk about it. But this lady is pretty straightforward.
You want to get shredded? I introduced to you the Bodybuilder's Calzone. In the sauce. Oh, come on! We are cracking the code. Parchment-lined pan. Ground chicken breast. Use a fork or spoon to spread it out so it's a nice kind of thin layer, square or oval, whatever tickles your fancy. Throw some seasonings at it. Salt, pepper, onion powder. My mom just called me. Did we put garlic powder or did we not do that? We'll just do more. Italian seasoning, why not? Put her aside. You're gonna take your blender, cottage cheese. Now, if you're dairy-free, you can put about 150 grams of your tears. I'm sorry, I can't help.
I don't know if you're just popping in, Crystal. She just pulled this blender out of her pants. It took me by surprise. But this is supposed to be a high-protein spinach and cheese calzone, and it's supposed to be low commitment. We're about to find out.
With this one. You know what to do. Hit her from the back. Absolutely beautiful. We'll put her aside. Let me take you to my pan. Quick spray, garlic, nothing crazy, cooking it really light. Chuck some spinach in there. Nice little saute. Grab your cottage cheese. Hit her with some lemon. Now you could do this in a bowl. That would make sense, but I just moved. I don't even have bowls. Sauteed spinach going in. And obviously salt. You don't have to, that's fine, but if you don't salt your food, you're a virgin. And mix. Bring back the chicken. Now we're gonna spread this onto half of it. Easy does it. And now we simply fold it over. Try to kind of seal the edges carefully. It should peel off. Are we supposed to remove excess paper? I do it because I'm scared of starting a fire. I did that once.
I feel like if I did this, it wouldn't be as graceful as what she just did. But the concept here is very interesting. I think I would give it a run. But
Parmigiano Reggiano. Press it in there. Any opportunity I can get to touch raw chicken, I'll take it. Into the oven at 400, about 20 minutes or until it says 165 degrees. Oh, for the side. Warm up a little bit of tomato sauce. Here we go. Look at that. In the sauce.
It doesn't look bad.
This is just getting stupid now. You can get abs without eating like a...
Okay. So I feel like I'd know what this would taste like if you've ever had like the chicken air fryer meatballs or anything like that. I feel like I know what the texture would be, but maybe the filling would be the saving grace on this. What's up, Landa? Thanks for joining. We kicked it off with a high protein meal tonight. And again, if you're just now joining, if you are lazy and want some free recipes that are not made by me, obviously, but all these videos that we're watching, I'll land them in your email box if you go sign up for the spam mail. Just go to my link tree. It's right there. And get on the list. Not that list. Okay. So yeah. And you can see her handle and stuff. You can follow all of these folks, and usually the recipes will be in the caption. Oh, did you make the chopped cheese from last week? Was it awesome? Okay, so let's continue along. We get a lot of videos. Okay, so this is also a huge recipe that's going to be in the caption of this one, but it's called Roman cheese bread. And I believe this gentleman says that he makes it every year. I don't know if it's something that he grew up with. I think it is. Let's see.
It was done in my house for a very long time. We're going to make cheese bread, Roman cheese bread. I always had growing up. It's one of my favorite things in the world to eat. Easter time, I would sell hundreds of these breads because a lot of people didn't make them. Some people are afraid to make them. They've never done it. So it was easier to buy, and not a lot of people had it in that area. So we're going to put it together today, and I'll show you the recipe. I'm going to start out by saying this is not an inexpensive dish to make. You use a lot of cheese in this recipe, a lot of Pecorino Romano cheese. It's something it's a costly venture to make. So you can adjust it to how you like it, to what you want.
Even that butter alone with current grocery prices, I'm just like, man. And how much eggs this is. This definitely ain't a cheap recipe. I'll say that off the rip. I felt the pain last night at the grocery store, actually, and it feels like things are still going up. And I did bring a couple conspiratorials that we'll get to that are food related. I wanted to include them because I feel like it's important to the conversation because we're always talking about food. And there's one lady in particular that talks about skimflation or shrinkflation and how you're getting ripped off at the store. So, I figured that might be good to look at for those of you that are going out and shopping for these ingredients.
You can cut the recipe in half. This is what I call a double recipe of ours. This is going to yield me about 7 or 8 loaves of bread. Let's get started with the ingredients. I have 10 cups of flour, 1 cup of warmed milk, 36 jumbo eggs beaten here, 4 pounds
36 eggs,
Pecorino Romano cheese. So as you can see, I got both of these. I had to separate them just to put them in together. This is 1 pound of butter melted. This is the yeast. This is the most important thing to have the bread rise. So this is how we buy the yeast around here. You can buy it in the bakeries. You sell it. It comes in a cake like this. It's a 1 pound block. And then what I do is I melt it in a cup of water. That's the way we did this. Now you can use dry active yeast. There's different things. Never did it. This is the way we did it. So I'm not sure how to make
this is
the
rich
version
people.
of it.
I'm going to skip it a little bit.
Get all this stuff. We're going to start putting. That was around, but it wasn't. Everybody liked it, but it was nobody. A lot of.
I'm going to skip it some.
To rise. So I'm going to fill the rest of these pans, and then I'm going to lay them. We always lay them on top of the stove. We put them on top of the stove, and we covered them. We used to use blankets it was like they were like babies in our house. But I'm just going to cover them with some towels like this and let them sit. They're going to take a couple hours, probably 2-3 hours really to rise. And you want them to double in size. Now here's what we did. We just covered them up. Here's our cheese breads. Beautiful. They rose really, really nice. Final product. Here's our cheese breads. This is what they should look like. These were in.
Maybe it's just me. I feel like I'm whelmed. Not overwhelmed at how these look. Or underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed. They almost look like a cornbread. I wasn't expecting this.
The oven for almost 1 full hour on 350. So, and these were also pretty big loaves. So you have to adjust it. You know, you could check it. You could stick something inside the loaves to make sure they're cooked all the way through. But I'm going to dump one out and we're going to cut one in half just to let you see the inside of it. They should really fall out pretty easy.
Does that not look like cornbread?
And they really should cool even before you eat them. This is a bread that you really want to eat cold. But I'm going to cut one just so you guys see the inside of it.
The inside looks like cake to me.
And that's it. That is a cheese bread, Roman cheese bread. Mm-hmm. So we'll let this cool down. We'll slice them up. Like I said, we'll make slivers with some nice thin salami on them. And that's our dinner tonight.
I don't know about dinner, but that does sound like a good snack. I don't know if I can afford to give these a run, but the recipe will be in your email nonetheless if you want to give this a run. Landa, I saw what you said about the sloppy Joe from last week. That's how I feel about a lot of these recipes that are on the internet that are like, here's a meal you can make in 20 minutes and feed 30 people. And you get into the recipe and, 2 hours later, you got a stack of dishes and your food's still cooking and you're temping it and it's still not up to temp. Some of these recipes are deceptive. And I think what you have to look out for sometimes, especially if it's a longer video like this one, there's a lot of cuts. And if they're touting like a 10-minute recipe or whatever, sometimes if there's windows around, you can kind of tell how much time has passed. But sometimes you just get got. Maybe like with that recipe you're talking about, Landa. I'm sorry. I'm not going to claim that any of these are quick recipes, but some of them definitely look good. And this is one that I personally am going to give a run, but it's bang bang chicken thighs, and thighs are superior to breasts in my opinion when it comes to chicken. And this sauce looks good.
Tonight for dinner, we're making bang bang chicken thighs. These are so easy to make, so delicious, high in protein, low in calorie, and definitely one of my favorite meals. Toss your chicken thighs into a bowl. We're seasoning with salt and pepper. Add a bunch of garlic and onion powder along with some smoked paprika. Drizzle on some oil, and with your hands, mix this all up really well. We want it seasoned front to back like so. Hey. Onto your baking pan, we're going to lay them down gently. And
I never said that this was an appropriate podcast. This is just whatever we can think of. And that was the first thing I thought of.
Bake at 370.
And it's from years of people making inappropriate comments on the internet. So sometimes I say stuff out loud and then I'm like, oh, somebody's about to say something inappropriate to that. So I just make it inappropriate instead.
25 degrees for 45 minutes. For the sauce, Kewpie mayonnaise, some sweet chili sauce, and a little sriracha.
Have y'all ever had the cutie pie mayonnaise or QP, as she says? I've never had it. It's Japanese mayo. Um, I'm interested though. I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. How is it? It looks like it has a creamier texture. I'm assuming that okay, very eggy. I'm assuming that's what they put in like the yum yum sauce at sushi places. Because this sauce that she's making looks very similar, but once it tacks up on these chicken thighs, it looks really
Spicy
good.
as you'd like it. Mix it up really well, and we're going to add it onto our chittens. Use
It looks a lot creamier than if you were to use traditional mayo, is why I was asking. So it makes sense that it would be more eggy, maybe.
a brush to cover every area, and we are going to put this back in the oven just for a few minutes until the sauce tackens up. Now we're going to add some fresh parsley on top, and these came out absolutely beautiful. Serve these over some rice, and you don't even need a knife. Look how tender these are.
Now that would be an easy weekday meal, I think. I've cooked enough chicken thighs to know. And if you don't have time to do the oven, if you have an air fryer, you can make chicken thighs as long as they're thawed. You do like 6 minutes aside, and they're at 165 usually. At least on the air fryer that we have, 6 to 8 minutes aside. And then you can make this sauce. And once they're out of the air fryer, you could just put the sauce on. Yeah, Crystal. I think that's why she's using it for the base of this, because it does look a lot creamier. Because I make a lot of sauces from Duke's, or depending on where you're at in the world, Duke's is kind of the equivalent of Blue Plate. We don't have blue plate around here, but I'm definitely interested in the Japanese mayo. I'm gonna have to give that a run at some point. But yeah, easy chicken thigh recipe, maybe some different flavors you haven't had in a while, at least. What do we got? Okay. This is not a poor people recipe. I just wanted to include this next one because of how good it looks. And if you're not a lobster fan, if you're not a pasta fan, you're probably not going to think this looks good, but it looked great to me.
They get butter, garlic, and shallots sizzling in a pan with lots of Calabrian chilies, fresh basil.
That already looks good with the basil. I'm down. I can envision these flavors, and it's already a good base.
Lobster, and a healthy drizzle of vodka. In goes some heavy cream, their chunky tomato sauce, more butter, their house-made lumache pasta, Parmesan cheese, fresh basil and parsley. It all gets sauteed together. Then all of that creamy deliciousness gets beautifully plated with no lobster chunks left behind, finished with olive oil and their herb-infused breadcrumbs.
What are we
This
doing?
is the Angry Lobster Lumache from Tarina in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn.
What are we even doing? If you don't think that looks good, what are we even doing? What are we even doing? I don't know. Like, you could make this at home, but are you a chef? I'm not a chef in this way, but I would do my best. I'm not even that big of a fan of lobster, but yeah. Let's see. Okay. Enough gloating over lobster. We got burgers to get to. And honestly, this may be up there with the the chopped cheese that you made, Landa. This is a chili cheese smash burger, and he makes his own chili sauce for the burger. And it looks really good.
So I finally figured out how to make the perfect chili cheese smash burger. It's topped with a spicy chili, some Fritos, and a bunch of queso. And if my other burgers haven't given you a reason to hit that follow button yet, this one definitely will. Oh my God, that's
Now,
so good.
I will say this isn't the first time we've watched this guy. His name's Alf's Kitchen. You'll have it in your email, but his channel is nothing but smash burgers. He has somehow made a social media account that lives on nothing but smash burger content. So this dude's making and eating a lot of burgers. So I trust his recipes.
And we're going to start by cooking down some 80-20 ground beef, which is going to be the base for our chili sauce. And once it's brown and mostly cooked through, I'm going to add the diced white onion and let that soften up a bit before I add the minced garlic. And after about 30 seconds, we can add the tomato paste and some whole grain mustard, followed by one of my favorite hot sauces. And then I'm going to add some adobo seasoning before we stir it all in and let that cook for about 5 minutes. And then it's time to add some W sauce and half a can of Guinness beer, which is also my secret to the best sloppy joes. Now I'm going to let the sauce simmer and thicken for about 5 to 10 minutes. And I like to add a little beef stock while it simmers to get that perfect consistency. Now today I'm actually going to try out some new buns that I found. I'm a big fan of Dave's Killer Bread products, so I can only imagine these buns are going to be incredible as well. And after we get those toasted up, it's time to place down our 75-25 ground beef and smash them right into the cast iron griddle. And since I always get comments asking how I get such a perfect sear on my smash burgers,
look at this crust that he's about to turn these burgers over. I could never. Like, I've got a Blackstone, and if we're doing 80-20, I can get a decent crust, but this crust isn't on a different planet.
let me know if you want me to put together a video where I walk you through how I prepare and cook these patties to get such a beautiful crust.
Look at that.
And after we top these off with some American cheese and give that some time to melt, we can stack these up and start putting it together, starting with a toasted bun covered in some mild queso. Then we're going to place down 2 of our patties before piling on a bunch of that spicy chili sauce. And let's be honest, a chili cheeseburger just isn't complete without some Fritos. So we're putting a bunch of those on top.
This is fat ass activity here that we're doing tonight, and I'm here for it. I would totally smash this burger, but is it healthy? Nope. We did a healthy recipe though. We did a healthy recipe earlier, so that offsets everything.
For adding more queso and placing down the top bun. Now this is one of those smash burgers that you have to try at least once, but trust me, when you do, it's definitely going to stay in regular rotation for dinner. So I finally figured out.
That's crazy. I'd love to give that a run. Would smash that burger. What else we got here? Oh, it wouldn't be Thursday without some overkill on sweets. So we had chocolate cobbler last week on the rotation. This week we have carrot cake cobbler. Now, I know that some people are picky and some people don't like carrot cake. The kicker with this is it has salted caramel sauce. And if you think about like the flavor profile of a carrot cake anyway, I think it would pair really well. And, you know, cobbler's warm. It's not like you're eating a cold, hard slab of carrot cake or anything. So yeah, let's
I'm a professional pastry chef, so I bake a lot, and I'm
sold. Professional pastry chef. She's telling you to eat this. So I'm giving it a run.
telling you that this may be one of the best recipes I've ever made.
What is this?
This is my carrot cake cobbler recipe topped with a homemade salted caramel sauce. And I'm telling you.
Are we listening to a recipe, or are we doing like pre-prayer at church?
It was fantastic and super simple to put together. You don't need to be a pastry chef to make this, I promise. I topped it with some sugar and pecans instead of walnuts, which are traditional for carrot cake, but feel free to swap them out if you prefer. It is so good served warm with even more of that caramel sauce on the side, because who doesn't need more caramel sauce? And this is perfect for Easter brunch or any sort of.
I think you could sub the sauce, Landa, if you don't like caramel. You could probably make like a what recipe was it where we saw? I think it was one of the cheesecake recipes where they whipped up that it wasn't I wouldn't even consider it a sauce. It was more like an icing, but you could still do like a cobbler like this and just do like a traditional carrot cake icing on it. I think it'd be good. But yeah, she's a pastry chef. What more do you want in a dessert? I don't know. Well, okay, hold the salt. I don't know. I don't know that I have a preference between caramel and salted. Okay, more chicken. So we had a healthy chicken, we had a semi-healthy chicken, and this is going to be probably a not at all healthy chicken. But this lady went to Savannah, Georgia, and it changed her life apparently. So, and her handle is the Tipsy Housewife. So, I think that's a pretty good indicator on this
Savannah,
one.
Georgia for work. First time going to Savannah. Didn't know what to expect. Now I think it's my favorite city in the United States. Everywhere there, they had pecan crusted stuff, pecan crusted chicken, pecan crusted.
Do we have anybody out there that likes pecans? Is it pecans or pecans? Pecans or pecans? I don't know. I could take them or leave them. I'm not a huge fan or a hater, honestly, but
Flounder. I loved it. I had to come home and immediately recreate the chicken because I don't know where to get flounder in Chicago. Anyway, I pounded out some chicken breast. I made a pecan mix with some crushed pecans. I don't even know how to say pecan, so whatever.
same.
And some panko and some Parmesan.
Is it?
Made my little breading station, breaded all the breasts and put them to the side for a little bit to just kind of chill out for a second. And this recipe makes like 5 to 6 breasts, depending on the size. Butter and oil in a pan. You don't want this to be too smoking hot because you don't want your nuts to burn. You just want it to look like this. That's why you also have to pound it out thin so that it's not like raw or nuts burnt, if you know what I mean. Then I made this hot honey butter, made my creamy mashed potatoes, drizzled that hot honey butter all over. Oh my God, when I tell you this was to die for, it was
Okay.
to die for. The recipe's on my website.
This is another one where I think it will take you a deceptively long time to make this. So she threw it together quick in this video, but you've got to pound out your chicken. You've got to, I don't think you can buy pecans from the store that are going to be this finely minced. Maybe you can. Maybe it's like walnuts, but I think you're going to have to probably crush those some more, even if you buy them chopped. You're going to have to set up a breading station, and then you go through the process of essentially making a regular chicken cutlet. But like she said, it'd probably be very easy to burn your nuts as you're trying to make these, especially if you get your butter and oil too hot. Butter's tricky. And then comes the issue of actually cooking the chicken. You got to have a thermometer handy. She had like 2 or 3 chicken breasts, but they make, once you get them into cutlets, you may have 9 cutlets to make. So this is a recipe that's probably going to take you like 3 hours to make. Yeah, don't burn your nuts. That's the core message here. But yeah, this one will be in your email. And we're about halfway through the show. I just want to plug again and say, if you don't know what I'm talking about with the email, if you go to the link tree that's running everywhere, it's running on the scroller. It's right here. Cosmic Crumbs with a 0 instead of an O. Every week, we've got a choose our next adventure button. And what that's going to do when you click it is take you to a survey. And it says, what do you want to talk about after we get done with the recipes? This week, the overwhelming favorite was Glitch in the Matrix. So that's what we're talking about, because I don't know what to talk about all the time. And it helps me help you be entertained if you want to talk about crazy stuff. And you pick, and I'll talk about it. So get on here, sign up for the mailing list. That way, if you miss a show, you get all the recipes and the stories that we cover in your email. You can catch up on everything, and you'll have the recipes so that you can make your own spam folder and just drag these emails into. And when you don't know what you want to have on the weekend or through the week, you can go grab a recipe. Or you just have too many options and you can't choose anything if you're like me and Landa, apparently. But anywho, on to the next one.
Really good pizza in the restaurant, and the pepperonis are like perfectly cupped and charred.
Okay. I included this because I personally have always bought store-bought pepperoni. I've never done what this gentleman's about to do, but this makes me very interested because I do like pepperoni.
Instead of those flat, greasy pepperonis. Let me show you how to get those at home. It all comes down to what type of pepperonis you buy. Most people, when they make homemade pizza, they just get the standard pepperonis that you find in the pizza aisle. But the problem with these is they don't have a natural casing, plus they're a little bit too big. So what you want to look for is a pepperoni log like this.
I liken this to why you'd want to shred your own cheese versus buy pre-shreds. Because I imagine the pre-cut pepperoni also has a coating.
The pepperonis I like, it's called margarita. You can get them at Walmart. I like them just because they're the best I've tasted, plus they're the easiest to get. So double whammy. These types of pepperonis have a natural casing on them. I don't know if you can see that. So basically the outside is slightly tighter than the inside. And so when the heat hits it, the outside shrinks faster than the middle, which causes the cupping. So there's a few ways that you can cut these. So however you cut these, you want them to be a little bit thicker than these normal pepperonis, because also a nice medium thickness is going to contribute to that cupping. So you can just cut them like this. But there's a couple easier ways. The easiest way I found is just by using a food processor. They usually come with a blade like this for shredding up vegetables, but I like to use the slicing mode. And so I usually cut it in half and then slice off the edges. And now you've got a bunch of perfectly sliced pepperonis. And so comparing the thickness, they're probably double the thickness of these normal pepperonis. All right, so let's make a pizza and I'll show you what it looks like.
So there's the difference. He's got regular pep on the right and the mini pepperonis on the left. Well, I wouldn't even call them mini, but they just cook different. They're built different.
To be honest, these both look pretty freaking good, but obviously these cupped pepperonis, it's hard to beat. If you want a dough recipe, check out the pinned recipe on my page. I also made a dough calculator to make it super easy. This might be the best pepperoni pizza I've ever made, I'm not gonna lie. So to me, there's not really a contest. Cupped pepperonis is gonna win every single.
Never had it, but I want to give it a run. So I'll include this in there as well. And I think the next videos are all conspiratorials, food-related conspiratorials, if you will. This next one is, so as you know, they're trying to get like artificial colors out of stuff. They're trying to make it harder for companies to put junk in your food. And this is, I call them conspiratorials just because, you know, your news isn't talking about this stuff. But check this out about how they're going to get away with calling this beetroot red. So one would think that beetroot means that it's got like beet powder in it or something. It's not going to mean that. And it's kind of messed up how they're getting away with this.
They know you won't notice. This is episode 8 of a series I do where I explain the unforgivable shit big food companies are putting in our food.
Yeah, Crystal.
Here's a new one
I
for
think
you.
that's a good thing.
It gained full FDA approval and hits the market this coming Monday as a natural color additive produced by Israeli tech company Phytolon. The ingredient is none other than beetroot red. If it sounds like it's just juice from beets, don't be mistaken, because it isn't. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even contain beets, just a small sliver of DNA. I encourage you to dig into the details and read the comments at regulations.gov. Search for this docket. It received heavy opposition from the public, but was granted approval anyway, even with only a 90-day safety study on rats. Here's how Phytolon makes it according to the FDA's final ruling. It starts by inserting a specific beet DNA sequence into baker's yeast. This is called precision fermentation.
I'm sorry, but if we have to talk about DNA sequences for you to put something in food, done. Because obviously all this is just making food cheaper, making it cheaper to manufacture you something that they're already overcharging you for.
The yeast is then put into stainless steel tanks and fed sugars and minerals. With its new DNA instructions, it now knows how to secrete the red pigment. Once the tanks are full of red liquid, they have to separate it from the yeast. Then only the red dye remains. But a liquid red dye alone is highly perishable and requires a carrier agent. The most common carrier agents for this purpose are maltodextrin and gum arabic, both of which I've covered in this very series.
More shit.
But you won't see the carrier agent listed on the ingredient label because the FDA considers it an incidental additive and therefore it is exempt from disclosure. Even through all this, if manufacturers choose to use beetroot red as their coloring agent, they can make the claim, "No artificial colors" on the front of the package. I have a hard time hearing any arguments supporting food dyes because here's a wild idea. How about we grow the up and stop coloring our food? I hope this brings you a bit more clarity as to what's in our foods. Like and
Now, I am going to include these in the email just so you can show your family or friends, or if you have people you want to send these to. But this is insane. Like, this is how they're getting around the new regulations. They're just coming up with like DNA sequenced garbage to call natural, just so that when you, or especially younger people who are growing up and just starting to get into maybe health or fitness and nutrition, they're going to look at a label and see beetroot, and automatically your mind's like, oh man, that's got to be healthy. And now it's just some more stuff, like more hoops to jump through to figure out what you're dealing with food, and it's frustrating. But anywho, into the shrinkflation stuff.
Pine nut hummus goes from 10 ounces down to 8 ounces, but still $3.99. This person was like, I feel like my bagels are lighter. And it turns out, yeah, they're noticeably lighter because they were a serving size that was one bagel, still 6 servings per container. But that one bagel is 85 grams instead of 95 grams. Fresh Step went from 42 pounds to 38 pounds. They also changed the packaging for some reason. Apparently this is the beloved cartoon kitty that has been on there for a long time, and they switched it to a weird AI cat with weirdly small legs. This package of eggs went down from 20 eggs to 18 eggs, and they just kept the same packaging and just didn't put some of them in there, but it covers it up with the packaging so you can't tell. Here's some digital shrinkflation with Fortnite V-Bucks that made a pricing change this March. $8.99 for only 800 V-Bucks instead of 1,000. $22.99 for only 2,400 V-Bucks instead of 2,800. $36.99 for 4,500 instead of 5,000. And $90. Wow.
Now, I will say, all I see from this lady is shrinkflation related stuff. So if you're interested in keeping up with, how we're all getting screwed, definitely give her a follow if you do TikTok. But these videos are going to be in your email. Her again, same deal, same stuff.
Used to be ice cream. You can see it in the label that's on the shelf here. Recent change was made, decreasing the cream content, and it is now qualified as frozen.
Cannot legally be called ice cream anymore, was the change. You can see the label used to say it. Now the content has changed where they can't legally call it ice cream anymore.
Dairy dessert. So the ice cream has changed faster than they were able to change the shelf information, or maybe they just couldn't be bothered. Look at these Reese's Kisses. These were baked.
This is insane, because I remember when people used to make these, the chocolate would melt. Has anybody made these recently?
And were meant to be melted onto these pretzels. Look at what happened when they baked them. They just crumble. And trying to put these M&Ms on the top and squish them down, and then
they keep reducing the chocolate content. Same with there's all the smoke around Reese's peanut butter cups recently, that they changed their recipe and the chocolate content and the peanut butter content to where it's just a former chemical thing of what it used to be.
Have the chocolate like melt over it. Nope, it just crumbles because that is not chocolate. This person got fooled by the buy again reorder button on Amazon. They wanted to reorder this magnesium citrate they had previously purchased. They've purchased it 3 times, and this is what it came up as. You can see in their order history, the first 2 of those 3 times, they received 500 grams, which is 17.6 ounces.
You get the idea, though. It keeps happening. This, okay, I'm a big, huge hot sauce connoisseur, and I've always liked Cholula and was super pissed when I saw this. I did not realize that Cholula had been purchased by private equity, and what private equity has done to the recipe. It'd be like if private equity bought Tabasco and changed the recipe to make it go further.
If you notice this hot sauce started tasting different, you're not alone. Things started going downhill when Cholula was acquired by McCormick and Company for $800 million in 2020. The deal brought their share of the hot sauce market up to an estimated 30%. The ingredients before were mostly just peppers, spices, and vinegar, but now they've made some sneaky changes, adding acetic acid and natural flavor while still having vinegar, but much lower on the ingredient list. This is a shocking change because they're replacing real fermented vinegar with acetic acid, which is naturally occurring in vinegar, but in this form, it's a synthetic acidic compound that is added. This likely allows them to use a much larger percentage of water because when you replace a fixed volume of real vinegar with a smaller amount of concentrated acetic acid, it allows you to use much less. But worst of all, they added natural flavor. When you remove the fermentation-derived flavor complexity of vinegar and replace it with industrial acetic acid, the product just isn't quite the same. So natural flavor can be added to try to recreate that same flavor that consumers have gotten used to. This post-acquisition shift to cheaper, more concentrated inputs shows how the conventional grocery store-driven food system operates. This isn't just about one brand or one acquisition. It's about breaking free from this entire system, which for something like hot sauce, you can make yourself or find at your local farmer's market.
It's a shame. It's a shame. It was definitely a really good breakfast hot sauce, but yeah, it's changed. So I loved it too, Crystal. Hopefully enough people complain to where they swap them back, but I doubt it. They're doing it with everything. They've already started ruining the Siete stuff. You name it. There's tons of restaurants that have been purchased. It's awful. I personally used to love Jersey Mike's, and you can already tell a difference since they got bought by private equity 8 months ago. But anywho, that's the end of the food for the evening. And we're going to get on the glitch in the Matrix Reddit, since that's what you all wanted to talk about. And we're just going to start at the top. Again, if you don't like glitch in the Matrix, get on the link tree, go and vote. And next week, we'll talk about what you want to. And if there's something you want to talk about that ain't on here, just go to share your story and just put, hey, I want to talk about this. And get on the mailing list. Get on the mailing list. I'll send you all this stuff. So came home to discover that my pet snake was out of her cage when I know that there's no logical way she could have gotten out under natural circumstances. Explanation to follow. So to clarify, yes, I have a pet snake. And while I realize that a lot of people reading this will likely immediately think, oh, well, they must have forgot to must have just accidentally left the cage open and the snake got out. Whoop-de-doo, not a glitch. Let me explain. So for starters, I'm a very attentive pet owner and have always, always, always double checked, if not triple checked, to make sure that after any time I go to put the snake back in her terrarium after handling her, that she has been safely resecured with the sliding glass door to her cage shut tightly. There's even a little metal lock that I put on the front of these doors to make sure that they can't possibly be pushed open if she were to ever decide to squeeze her way out. So that said, yesterday I got home from work, all seemed normal in the apartment, when some time later I noticed something familiar moving along the ground out of the corner of my eye. I looked down and almost couldn't believe what I was looking at. There was my snake slithering her way along the wall, happy as a clam to have somehow gotten out of her cage. Now, of course, the first thing that came to my mind was to search for some obvious explanation, and I just assumed that there must have been some spot in the cage that either came loose or maybe there was even a gap or a hole that I wasn't aware of that she had somehow squeezed out of. Upon rifling through her cage for any evidence of said newfound potential escape routes, however, I found absolutely nothing. On top of that, when I found her slithering on the ground, I'd like to note that the cage doors were still completely closed, I'm assuming with the lock on. So how could she have possibly gotten out is beyond me. I should also note that I live alone, so there's no one else to possibly let her out. What do you think? Is that a glitch in the Matrix? Okay. So I think the most obvious answer to this is put a camera there if the snake's getting out. But it says keep in mind when you check for parts being loose, you are not checking from the inside. You are pushing on things from the outside. If something only moves in one direction, from the snake's perspective, you'd be convinced that the cage was solid when it's really not. But I'm going to say probably not a glitch in the matrix for this one. But I'll let you all decide because it's still kind of crazy. Let me see. I'm actually going to save these as we go tonight so I don't have to go hunting back for this stuff. Hold, please. Okay. Maybe. Okay. So let's go back. My coworker and I saw each other in two places at once. We both have witnesses. Neither of us has an explanation. This is about 8 months ago. My coworker, Sarah, called me confused. She said she'd just seen me in the parking garage on level 2 and waved at me, and I'd waved back. We made eye contact, and at that exact time, I was meeting on the 11th floor. 4 people could confirm this, including my manager. I hadn't been in the parking garage in all day. The strange part, she described exactly what I was wearing that day correctly, down to a specific jacket I don't wear often. We've talked about it several times. She's not the type to make things up, and I'm not either. We just don't discuss it much anymore. It feels better not to. Now, this is a pretty common occurrence, in my opinion. A lot of the glitch in the matrix stuff kind of feels this way. And I don't know, you could chalk it up to like time slips or alternate dimensions, but weird. So that's crazy. What prompted her to call after she saw you and you both waved at each other? What confused her in that moment? The coworker obviously knew the original poster was in a meeting on the 11th floor, left suddenly and seen OP in the garage, knowing he was still in the meeting. Yeah. Uh-oh. They're calling out this person because apparently they left an "Am I the asshole" story and never responded to any comments. Okay. Brain trying to make me forget this glitch. This I felt like this is going to be a good one. Last night I had some green juice with my dinner. We ain't doing that. There was some leftover juice sitting in the glass when I finished. The glass was sitting on my coffee table thing. On my coffee table thing. What thing do you have that is coffee table like that you're using as a coffee table? I left it there overnight. I used to live off grid without a fridge. That explains a lot. And often leave things that won't go bad sitting out overnight to eat the next day, and it's fine. At one point, though, I probably wouldn't do that for green juice. At one point, though, before bed, I looked up at the table and realized I had 2 glasses with similar amounts of green juice in them, both sitting on that table. I didn't think anything of it. Sometimes I'll get a fresh glass and forget that I hadn't yet finished the previous one. This morning, I was putting some dishes in the dishwasher and thought that I would consolidate the 2 glasses of green juice into one and just put. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Anyway, this person's going to get like listeria or something. Combine the 2 glasses of day-old green juice into one and put the empty glass in the dishwasher. But then when I walked over to the coffee table, there was only 1 green juice glass. So 1 glass turned into 2, then turned back into 1. I didn't have a second green juice glass anywhere. I hadn't dumped the second one out. I never washed it. I never finished it. I then realized that I shouldn't have had the 2 glasses of green juice in the first place because I hadn't had green juice with earlier meals. There should only ever have been 1 glass. So the glitch happened last night and then corrected itself this morning. As ever, maybe the most significant thing about this is that I feel something trying to get me to forget it. It's like something is pressuring my brain to question whether this happened or not. I've noticed the same phenomena when I've been aware of other glitches, although notably this urge seems less strong than it has in the past. Also want to note that another glitch I noticed, which I also posted about, involved a dishwasher. I've had this theory that something about the circulating water plus electricity makes glitches more likely. I think this may be why we always lose socks, that they're not disappearing in the dryer, they're disappearing in the washer. I don't know. If that were the case, like the Hoover Dam would be having a lot of glitches in the Matrix. Electricity plus water. I don't know about that one, but I do question this person's cleanliness. I'm not drinking day-old green juice that's been sitting out. I feel like that's not safe. So this next one is AirPods, appropriately titled. I was using my AirPods while talking to my girlfriend. I went outside of my office building. I clearly remember talking to her using AirPods. While coming back to my floor, I call her in the lift. On my floor, I met a colleague, had a small chat, and went straight to the washroom. When I came out, I had a conversation with another colleague and went back to my seat. I wanted to listen to music, so tried to pull AirPods from my pocket, and they weren't there. I started searching all my pockets and saw the case on the table. I thought I must have taken just the buds, so I continued searching for them in my jeans, and when I didn't find them, I opened the case and the buds were there. I remember very clearly I did not come to my bench. How did this happen? And why do I not remember putting the earbuds back in the case after I cut the call? I don't know about a glitch on this one. There's sometimes, like, especially if I'm sidetracked or thinking about something, I will totally do stuff like almost like on autopilot. I don't know if you guys are like that, but even yesterday I was doing something on my phone and I needed to be doing something on a computer. And I was like, I need to put my phone away so it's not distracting me. And I go to reach for the phone and I'd already put it away and just walk back because I was deep in thought. So it could be something like that, in my opinion. Not a strong case for glitches in the Matrix so far. This one says, I saw my doppelganger. Okay, we're going to do that one. It's short. I was on vacation, and you know when someone usually says, I saw someone who looked like you, and they never do. Well, I was walking, and in the Caribbean, I saw a guy who looked exactly like me. Hair, beard, body, and face. My friend even stopped dead in their tracks. Me and this person walked by each other. We both stopped maybe 10 feet from each other and turned around at the same time, just looked at each other for a few seconds and kept walking. My friend said it before I could that guy looks exactly like you. I wonder if he tells the same story too. Somebody says, better be careful. The same matter can exist at the same time in the same place. Statistically, I forget how many people they say that are on the planet that look probably dangerously similar to you, but I think it's around 10 probably. Statistically nearly identical probably, but probably a little bit different in some ways. There's been, I'm sure you've all seen cases on social media where people like this find each other, and sometimes they even have similar pasts, done similar things in life. It's very uncanny and often comes up when we're talking about glitch stuff. But let's see what else we got here. The backpack I've used for months suddenly lost a pocket. I bought a backpack a while ago in December. I've used it quite a bit since then. It has a light gray padded laptop pouch in the back of the largest pocket. I know because I bought a flat backpack divider so that I could put in to store my toiletries more efficiently. I'm traveling in Germany right now, and this morning, as I was packing to leave, I opened my backpack to put in the divider, and the pocket was gone. For a second, I just assumed that I misremembered the location, but it was nowhere. And it's part of the backpack. It's attached. I know it so well that I can picture it in my head, and I know what the texture felt like. Honestly, I was more annoyed than confused. I just accepted that it didn't exist anymore. But the weirdest part is when I went to the Amazon page, it says that the backpack comes with a padded laptop compartment. But when I watched a video from a while ago of me opening the backpack, the compartment was also gone. And somebody said, I have a similar story that just happened a few days back, except with video and photo proof that it did exist. Yeah, that is creepy. That part's creepy. That's almost like a Mandela in a way, except in, I guess some Mandelas are in physical form anyway, but that one is very Mandela-esque to me, especially when you have video proof that changes. But this other person in the comments said that they had video proof that agreed that it used to be there. Creepy. That is creepy. Okay, we got to do this one. Glitch stole my underwear. The title sounds like a joke, but it isn't. I'm genuinely still so confused. A couple of years ago, I chucked my clothes on the laundry floor because I really wanted to shower. I figured I probably shouldn't leave them there because it's impolite, so I painstakingly bent down and put them in the basket. I went to grab my underwear last, but before I could, a black circle appeared on the tiles beneath it. I watched it grow from small to large over a few seconds, and when it was fully formed, slightly bigger than the underwear, it disappeared and my underwear disappeared with it. I was frozen during the whole thing, though I didn't really realize it until the full circle vanished and I could move again. When I did, I went over to where it had been, and it was just normal tiles. I considered that maybe I just hallucinated it. That seemed like the most logical explanation, but I've never experienced anything like that before, and I'm generally healthy. I also never saw that underwear again. I don't know why my underwear was stolen, but I'm still annoyed. First comment, it's a pervert from the fifth dimension. An interdimensional sniffer stole them. I thought this said the Grinch stole my underwear. Your underwear is now in a Japanese vending machine. That may be my favorite. Do they sell weird stuff like that in Japanese vending machines? That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, Lord, that's definitely different than some of the other ones we've read tonight, because none of these other glitch stories talk about like portals opening up to take stuff. Yeah, I guess, Crystal. Somebody years later like finds the underwear in the wall or something. Let me try to find a juicy one. Okay. This looks pretty legit. Somehow I drove 200 miles in less than 2 hours. I used to live in Alameda, California, and I would often need to go to Southern California for work. Drive down on Monday, back on Friday. Oh, God. I can't pronounce these names because I don't know if I'm assuming it's a Spanish name, but I'm just going to call it like I sees it. Paso Robles is a nice town about 200 miles from home with gas stations and a restaurant that are nice to eat. And I typically stop there on the way back to get gas and get some food. One time in late March 2018, I was driving back and stopped for dinner and gas. When I got back on the road, I messaged my wife to say I'm leaving. The sun was just setting, and I had texted to confirm that I was hitting the road about 7:30. Zoned out listening to podcasts during the drive. When I got home right at 9:30, my wife wasn't even in bed yet. She was surprised to see me. Somehow, I drove 200 miles in a 2017 Ford Edge in less than 2 hours, so averaging over 100 miles an hour the entire time. There's no way that this is possible, and I still have no idea how this happened. I've heard of lost time, but this was gained time. Well, it's interesting that they say this. So there's, people have always thought that there are ripples in time, or, if you really get into it, like time dilation, meaning that depending on where you're at in the world and what kind of magnetivity you're around, time can work a little bit different. And they've actually, I know I get made fun of on other shows for always talking about the ranches in Utah, like Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch. But if you go to I think it's like season 4, season 5 of Skinwalker Ranch, they actually prove in one of the more magnetic parts of the ranch that there was like a quarter second time dilation where a second was gained by one of their instruments that was not gained on a different instrument elsewhere, or on an atomic level. So I don't know, depending on what he got into, or where he was at, you just never know. They're always talking about solar flares and all this geomagnetic activity. I'm thinking maybe like a time dilation situation, but that's a crazy one. I also have never heard of time gained. We talked to a couple individuals who went to investigate the Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and they actually experienced time loss when they were doing their investigation. They said they went down to where all of the military installments used to be, because there's a theory that the Mothman is a military experiment and not a true, like, natural born cryptid in the way that, like, it's just an animal. But they went down to this military place, and to some of the area you have to use a kayak or a canoe to get to. So they spent quite a while out there. But they said that they passed a gas station. It was open, and then they feel like they were out there for maybe 2 hours investigating and getting some stuff for the book they were wanting to write. And they said they were coming back through, and they noticed the gas station was closed. They were going to stop at another gas station, and it was closed too. So they look at a clock, and it had really been like 6 or 8 hours that had passed in what they perceived to be 2. Now, I understand that the first part of that, I said that they were writing a book. So that could just be like shock jock book material, like something nice to add into their book for woos and wahs. But it's still an interesting theory. Like, sometimes you hear about these time slips happening to people who really don't have any stake in the game. They're not trying to sell you anything. So, I'm receptive. I'm receptive to it all. But I think that does it, people. I've been yapping for an hour. Until you do this, until you're just yapping into the ether for an hour, you don't realize how easy or hard it's going to be. But I'm grateful to everybody that's tuned in, and everybody that tunes in after the fact. I enjoy doing it. I love food. I love crazy stuff. So this is the perfect mesh of the two. We get to talk about food. We get to talk about all the crazy stuff you want to talk about. Get on the link tree. Get on the mailing list. Share your crazy stories. If you have crazy personal stories, I'll read those first. Share your recipes. I'll read those first. But more importantly, get on here and vote every week for what you want to hear about next. And, if there's stuff that you all want to hear about or want me to read on that ain't on this list, we could totally. Oh, no worries, Alan. No worries, Alan. I'll have everything out. You're on the mailing list, so I'll have everything out. You get all the recipes and stuff. But yeah, get on here and vote for next week. We'll figure out something to talk about. And I appreciate everybody joining today. And until next week. Show tomorrow night, Wearing the Folk. Everybody already knows. They're talking about something crazy every week. I won't be there. I think I told you all I'm MIA for a little bit on Fridays and Saturdays, but still in communication with some really cool guests for Saturday shows. And I'm really excited about some of the guests we're talking to, or in talks with, to be on those shows. So stay tuned. The crew will talk about it tomorrow night, I'm sure. But thanks everybody, and I will catch you on the next go round where I'm yapping into a camera for hours on end.